everyone. I'm Rachel Chamness at Soundwaves Heal, and this is Leslie Hurd. And
Hey.
Leslie is an integrative and holistic spiritual counselor, and you can find her right now on my tag team page as she's setting up her new pages for light work. And she's just finished the Accelerated Channeling Mastery course, and she's awesome in all ways.
Thank you.
Today she'll be helping me talk to Hayashi. So if you don't know who Hayashi is, he is one of the Reiki Grandmasters. So the Reiki Grandmasters are the three main people who help develop Reiki. Welcome to 5D Channels and Chats with Rachel Chamness. As a shamanic channel and mentor, I'll be sharing wisdom and healing from higher dimensions through channeling beings of light. You will also hear liquid Reiki shamanic sound healing, channels between intuitives, and discussion on higher dimensional healing and channeling. You'll find links and more in the show notes, so be sure to check them. You can find me at soundwavesheal.com and my Facebook group, 5D Daily Spiritual Healers in Higher Dimensions. Today's podcast comes from my Facebook group, 5D Daily Spiritual Healers in Higher Dimensions, where I come on live every Thursday. Now I have a whole podcast already on all about Reiki, and I have blog posts too. And so we won't go too much into it, but basically Reiki is just channeled healing, and the original Reiki master that started it all, that discovered Reiki, we talked about last time and was my podcast this week, which is Dr. Usui. And Dr. Usui didn't make Reiki. He discovered that it was a thing and then began this program of teaching people how to wield the Reiki ray, channel this great healing. And so fast forward. So Hayashi was one of his students, and then Takata was one of Hayashi's students who I'll be channeling next week. And so we wanted to ask these questions that we might have for Hayashi. So a little bit about him. Hayashi was known as the mystic. He was mystic, right? So it means he was psychic. He was open enough to his psychic senses to admit it, I guess, back then. And he also, since he was psychic, he understood that because of the war, that there was not going to be any men to pass on Reiki. And at that time, you had to be a man to do it. Ridiculous. So he decided he would bring some women into the practice. He brought in his wife, and he brought in Takata, who I will channel next week. And so because of him, we now have Reiki. And so we thought that he was the perfect person to ask some psychic Reiki questions to. Anything that crosses Reiki and psychic clairs or anything like that. And of course, we want questions from you. We're going to prioritize all the questions that's inside my group, 5D Daily. And then any other interesting questions we see and that we can get to from YouTube or from my Facebook page, we can do that too. So we'll bring them in. So Leslie is very good at questions. She's come up with some questions for me. I'm just going to trance channel Hayashi. So it'll be Hayashi speaking as she's asking the questions.
Any questions that you have, I'll find a way to get to them. I have some to begin, but I'm curious what everyone has to say too.
Yeah, Christina is in the group. She says his medical knowledge definitely helped. Yeah, that was a good point. Okay, so maybe medical questions would be good for him too. All right, here we go. Hello, I am Hayashi. I am very happy to be here and to answer your questions.
Thank you for joining us, Master Hayashi. I would like to start with a question about the main 8 healing points that you focused on, and wondered if you could tell us more about those and why they were so important.
The main 8 spots that we worked on the body were from the top of the midline and down, the middle of the body. And yes, they do correspond to chakras. However, that is a more modern way of looking at it. The first spot that we chose was at the top of the head, not quite the crown chakra, not quite the third eye, but right here. And this was a soul spot that we chose for bringing through healing, for connecting to the soul. I'm giving you the answers to what they were each for. However, not all was known at the time that we did it of what they did. This is a spot that you would now use. You would use crown or you would use third eye. Here we had condensed it a bit. The second was here. No, the second was here. And this would be corresponding to the pineal gland now and corresponding to what your third eye is now. So we had this and this. And then the next spot was here. And this was for throat chakra, communication, heart, self-love, healing, self-inflicted trauma. Here, organs and body, layers in the body. Sorry, it's Rachel. I just realized you can't see me. Okay, sorry. What he said here, 3, 4, 5. This one is like my solar chakra, it looks like. Okay, I'll have him tell you. Okay, yes, that corresponds with the solar chakra. Maybe we were slightly below. And then right above the belly button, this was more of the outer layers of the auric field and how it connects into the body is how we were working at the time. This also relates to the lower back, which can be painful for many and has much to do with past lives. And so we were inadvertently clearing anything to do with past lives here, working on lower back pain, but really working on auric field. The next spot would be what you would call the root chakra and clearing there. This was clearing the grounding and the emotional safety needs, just as you clear now the root chakra, very similar. However, we did think of it slightly different. And then one more point, which was halfway between the groin and the knees, between the thighs, of course, above, always a few inches above the body. We were not touching the body here, of course. And this was to ground to surroundings and ground to your place on earth. And these were where we did healing. This is Rachel. That's really interesting because I always thought it was the chakras.
Yeah.
But he's kind of saying it a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we kind of just associate them with the same general places where the chakras fall.
It seems like what he's showing me is that it's like intuitively they were bringing up that they were chakra related and other things that are related there. Like I clear a lot of past lives in the lower chakras. That makes sense to me. But he's actually showing me like lower back, like the auric field and all the past lives caught in there. That's really neat. And then, but he's not really saying that he was using chakras. I would have thought that he was, but I guess not. All right, cool. Okay, let me go back in. You can ask more questions. I'm so interested. I wanted to say something. Okay.
I know.
Okay, you may proceed.
I have a question now about how Reiki is correlated or connected to psychic abilities and even clair abilities. And wanted to ask, how can we use Reiki to open up to our psychic senses? Do you have any tips or tools that we could utilize Reiki for those purposes for ourselves and for clients?
Yes, we found that opening the body to receive the channeled ray of Reiki also tended to open you up to your psychic abilities. However, we were very careful not to make this as a promise, for it is dependent on the practitioner themselves. The way that this works is as you are clearing these areas, especially the pineal gland, the third eye, the crown chakra, this area in the forehead, as you are clearing trauma and clearing physical ailments, as all is being released from the body, then it is able to be clear enough to receive messages more clearly. And we found that when the messages were very clear, the practitioner would begin to get unmistakable psychic information. And this could be called clairs. Sure, the clair of hearing, the clair of seeing, the clair of knowing deeply, of feeling. All of these are part of psychic senses. And what we found is for many that happened. It happened for me as well. My psychic senses were open beforehand, but as I was attuned, they opened more. And it is mostly to do with clearing away all that stands in the way for Reiki does clear blocks and lets the meridians of energy move more fluidly. Sometimes there are physical blocks in the body. They're not quite physical, but they are because of the physical body, such as scars and other places that stop energy from flowing through meridians. And with Reiki applied, these begin to release and energy begins to move more freely, which increases health. And with increased health, then more trauma can be released, as this is the order in which the psyche heals. First, it's physical ailments can take over all of the body's work. Then once that is on a higher scale of healing, then working on traumas and releasing traumas. And once that is even more clear, then more can be developed. And that's not to say that you can't have your psychic abilities work with 3D body pain and with trauma. For, of course, we all still have trauma as humans on the planet. There will always be more trauma to release, but sometimes there's so much that it must be cleared first to be able to handle the psychic ability in which one is experiencing. And so clearing blocks, looking for ways in which the client is holding on to fear or holding on to other misunderstandings of psychic abilities that can be in the way, and what we would call the most important lessons that need to be learned. And this is for a client if they have not gotten past some of the most important lessons their soul has placed forward into the life to be understood and gotten past, then no progress can be made. So there are many lessons that the soul must go through in their human life before they can reach a point in which they can open up. And sometimes if the client is stuck in some of these lessons, then they won't be able to get to a part of more enlightenment and understanding. And so for those, then they must work more on the trauma release and more on this aspect of themselves to find more enlightenment. And when you find the place of enlightenment, that's when it is easier to open up to understanding, messages received, to seeing, to hearing, to knowing. And it might not be the same for everyone, for not everyone sees or hears, but many will experience the knowing and the other types of receiving information, such as feelings. And you just need to learn how to understand what you're getting and work with it with practice. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. That is very confirming for what I think we see a lot when people are wondering, why am I not leveling up? Why am I not opening? It makes a lot of sense and it helps give guidance. So thank you so much for that information. We do have a couple of questions from the collective. Before I jump into those, I would like to ask, is there any advice that you would give on psychic attacks for each different level of Reiki attunement, level 1, 2, or master teacher? Do you have any information that would be helpful for us?
Yes. Yes. For every level, and especially the first level, you'll want to use your Reiki for self-healing and for keeping your auric field as clear as possible. This means that you will work on your trauma as discussed, for that is the only way to get through it, is to go through it and to release it. Clearing your field as often as possible and respecting the Reiki itself by setting aside this time for yourself and using meditation as well to help keep yourself clear when you have gone through some deep shadow work or trauma release, then to spend some time in nature, spend some time clearing the self and making sure that you've released all emotions that have come up for you as best as you can. This will help a great deal. If an attack is happening, a spiritual attack, then you may ask your guides and your Reiki guides and your helpers to step in and give you the best clearing or help that's available. Sometimes this help will come to you to go ahead and invest in a session for yourself, perhaps from your Reiki master or another that you trust. And there's a reason for this. You may ask, why can't the human always clear themselves from a psychic attack? And that is because when these attacks happen, they are often tied to lessons and other information that must be received. So if you are a level 1 Reiki practitioner or almost practitioner, then you would receive this message to have a session because there is more that you need now. And your guides are pushing you in this direction so that you can learn or be told what is missing from your daily practice or your weekly practice that must be brought in for your own growth and safety. And so there's always lessons involved. And if you are unable to receive them yourself, you'll be pushed to have a session with another. But those are the ways you can begin with clearing yourself, keeping yourself on a good track, and then if all else fails, reach out for help. For a Reiki 2 practitioner, it's much of the same, only you have a lot more help at your fingertips. You have more of the Reiki Ray. You are a practitioner now. This means you can reach out to a fellow practitioner and perhaps barter a session and help each other for when these attacks happen. Of course, it's always easier to see another, get the reasons and why you need to go through it and what you need to learn and what is missing and what can help from another that is not yourself. So here in the practitioner level, it's always wonderful to have someone that can help you. And you can use your symbols to create a very safe space. Here are some things that you can do for yourself. One is to create a room with a sacredness of meditating in this space and setting up some basic Reiki symbols on the walls, crystals in the corners, creating a circle, creating a sacred space for you to do your work. And doing your work in this room creates a very high vibration. Now, when you come into this room that you have built all of this space in, and this doesn't have to be indoors, it can be outdoors. If you have a space that you like to meditate, build energy, then go into the space and make sure that the walls or the edges of if it's an outdoor space, that they're protected using all types of Reiki symbols and Reiki. And in the space, when you are clear, you can make yourself several things. One is you can use the Hanshaze Shonin symbol to create a clearing session for yourself to be held in the future for when you need it, and you can call on it. So if you have done this already, you may go into the space and call it in to be cleared. And another thing you can do is to record yourself. You have so many advancements in technology that can help you at this time to record a session for yourself that you can give the intention that you can reuse as often as possible when you are clear and very high vibrational. And then you may go into your space and listen to your recording and receive this healing for yourself as well. So these are 2 ways you can do it. If all else fails, again, reach out to your master teacher or someone to help you. Now, at the master teacher level, you may do all of this and more. What is a difference here is with each level, you're channeling more healing. You're channeling a wider ray of channeling a stronger ray. You'll feel it much stronger and you work faster and you get more done and you come into more insight. So with each level, it's just a little more power and help. And you can do the exact same thing. It probably take you less time and it will be stronger. And again, you can barter your services with another.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump to the comments for a couple of questions for the people who've joined us. The first one is from Joanne, and she has a question about psychic surgery, and she wants to know if it was part of what you channeled when you became attuned or if it came later.
It did come later. And what we would do instead was to hold the Reiki position of healing and imagine whatever it was that needed to be removed would rise out of the chakra and be released. And this is a technique that any Reiki 1, 2, or master can use instead of going in and removing it in psychic surgery. So this is the way that we used it. It's not quite the same. Maybe it will take several times for it to work. It won't be as quick and effective as psychic surgery, but it does eventually work. And yes, it did come afterwards.
Great. She also asks, were people doing Reiki before you were attuned?
Yes, I was not the first to be attuned by Usui.
Okay.
And of course, before Dr. Usui, there were many who were channeling what is known as the Reiki Ray, what is known as other things as well, source energy. many famous prophets and many. It was only that Dr. Usui discovered this and turned it into a teaching and made it more available to all who wished to do it, instead of the few who were attuned by source or by God, or however you'd like to think of it.
That's beautiful. So that really connects it back into all the things we hear about from long, long ago, people healing and using different spiritual modalities to help others. And this is just a way to teach it for everyone to use it themselves.
Yes.
Beautiful. We have another question, and this one's from Julie. And she asked, how can we get better at learning the auric field of others and seeing or knowing when there are tears in those fields? Is Reiki a way that we can sense it and not just repair it or heal it, but can it help us to sense those needs?
Yes. So what you can do is use your hands to feel the auric field. And if you're Reiki 1 or you have someone in person, then you can just back off, and it doesn't need to be an exact space above or around or anything like that. You can just go to where you feel it could be and move your hands around to see if you feel anything that feels different and needs repair. Use your hands for repair. That's one way. Another way is just for intention to ask the question, is there a tear in this auric field that needs repairing? And wait for the sensation of yes or no. And you will get an answer, because this is a very basic claircognizance in which everyone possesses. And so you can just wait for the yes or no, or you can use a body muscle testing. If you know how to do that, leaning forward, leaning back, finding yes, finding no. You may use a pendulum to get your yes or no. Find the tears and then heal them with Reiki. You don't need to know exactly where they are. And you may just have the intention healing all tears and disruptions in the auric field till you feel that it is done. And it is done.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. And Julie says, thank you. Can you tell us a little more about how we can call on Reiki masters when we are providing Reiki or we are channeling Reiki to clean things up for us in the event that we don't remember the symbol or we don't remember something specific?
Yes. And so you may always ask that we step forward to correct any mistakes that you might make in your session. And this should be taught with Reiki always, and we will. And it's not just us, but of course, Source, the universe, your guides and helpers, they will all help with this. For Reiki is more than you think. It's not just us, the grandmasters, who possess some magical healing modality. All your guides and helpers and angels, they can all access this source healing, in which we call Reiki. There's no difference. It is only that we have distilled it into a way in which you can use it. And so, yes, we just call on help and you will be helped. It's not necessary to always get it exactly right, as long as you have made the intention that we help you, because of the law of spirit is that you must ask for help for us to help. Many times we cannot help if you don't ask. So just be sure to make the question, the ask, the prayer, and we will be there.
Thank you. We have one last question that has come in. This is from Ashley, and she asked, you've contributed so much to Reiki, and she wants to know if you were working on or developing anything new in the way of Reiki before you passed that may not have been shared or may have been overlooked that you could share with us.
There was nothing physical that I was working on that was undone, but there was more information about Reiki in which I wish to share. However, my time was up and it wasn't the right time for this information. And so I shared it from spirit, and it is part of what you all use now in Reiki. It is the newer revelations that have come with Reiki. A lot is about how Reiki can open your psychic senses in this way, as I spoke about earlier, and other practices as well. And these were released by me sending these messages psychically through many practitioners throughout the world. And when new information began to come forward, there were many who said, yes, I also received that. And that is how I've been doing it. And it became very easily part of Reiki. So in a way, there was much more to be discovered, but it was after my death that I shared it.
Beautiful. Excellent. So that wraps up the questions that we have had in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us this valuable information and for assuring us that you're always available when we ask.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
That was cool.
He's always so gracious and wonderful to hear from. That was lovely.
I know. That was good. Okay. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Leslie, for asking the questions. If you
Sure.
want to see more live and 5D episodes like this, you can, as you see on the bottom, you can go to 5D Daily Facebook group. And there's a lot of programs in there for increasing your connections to spirit. And of course, I also have my Spirit Guide Masterclass on my website. That was really fun.
That was great.
Yeah. Thank you
down.
so much, Leslie, for coming. I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. Sorry for the ones that I wasn't able to get to, but all of them were amazing. Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll say bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode. If you are a healer or spiritual entrepreneur, present or future, I'd like to invite you to my Facebook group, 5D Daily Spiritual Healers in Higher Dimensions, where I'll be live for more discussion and questions on Thursdays. I'll put the link in the show notes. I'm Rachel Chamness at Sound Waves Heal.